bleed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. Ready? This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go! And a good undefeated Wednesday morning, everybody. You got your Birds 365 Mac and Mac duo in the house. That'd be John McMullen and me, Jody McDonald. And yes, everybody's kind of counting down the hours until when the Phillies play game 3 of the NLDS. But we've got a couple of days before we get to the Eagles and the Jets. Philadelphia going up the Turnpike, take on an Aaron Rodgers-less Jet squad, who I thought had a chance to be a Super Bowl contender. Not the case with Zach Wilson, but can the Eagles get to 6-0? That's what we'll try and figure out here today. Johnny Mac, full practice yesterday?
No practice yesterday, just coordinators day. Full practice today. Wednesday. Typical week, Sunday game. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are the practice days. And we got to speak with the coordinators after a pretty solid effort, I would say, overall in Los Angeles, considering the circumstances. Michael Clay, though, I mean, special teams didn't have to do anything.
Right.
They didn't have to cover.
They weren't bad. They weren't that good. They take the day off. Yeah.
Basically, they took, except Jake Elliott, who, makes every field goal anyway. So, they had an easy day. And I think Sean Desai did a good job recovering from some early struggles. And, Brian Johnson keeps piling up yards, 20-20. Need to get better in the red zone. But 5-0 is 5-0, Jody. Only two teams.
Did Sean Desai expand on I know they have this week to evaluate him, but it's official now that they opened up Nakobe Dean's practice window. Did he lean toward how much participation Nakobe will get, if any? They don't have to activate him. They can activate him. When he was hurt, they put him on the 4-week IR, and the belief and hope was that he'll be ready to go after 4 weeks. Well, we've reached that fourth week. He is eligible to be activated for the game. Did you get any hints one way or the other as to whether that's going to be the case? And if so, how are they going to use him?
No, of course not. Sean knows better. He wants to keep his job. So, competitive advantage and all that type of thing. Basically said the more talent, the better, which I agree with. But I don't think they thought they'd be in this position when Nakobe was ready to come back. And Nicholas Morrow's played very well. And Zach Cunningham has been solid as well. So, it's a good thing. Now you have 3 linebackers to lean on instead of 2. But ultimately, Nakobe's going to get on the field. Is it going to be this week? Remember, you have a 21-day practice window for a reason. You might want to take a week to ramp him up. If he's ready to go, he's ready to go. I can't believe they would not play him. He's their best linebacker. I don't think there's much doubt of that from a talent standpoint. I don't see there should be any reason to hesitate. You say you tip your cap to the backup and say nice job, and move back to the guy you built the position around. That's what I would do. That's what I assume they're going to do. But no, nobody let on when it came to that.
And you mentioned Michael Clay and the fact that the Eagles weren't all that active on special teams on Sunday against the Rams. But you never know. Going into a given week, you can either need a big performance out of your special teams, or you can get by like you did this last week with not having to worry about it much. That plays into my linebacker question. Christian Ellis has been one of their better special teams player. Was last year when they added him to the roster, came up. You could actually see a difference in the Eagles' coverage with Christian Ellis out there. I thought he did an outstanding job. There were a lot of people that thought Christian Ellis was going to be a starting linebacker for the Eagles this year, that it could be he and Jakob because he flashed a little bit way back in preseason practices. But that has not been the case. He has not gone on field much at all behind Nicholas Morrow, who they released and brought back to the practice squad and did the elevation thing with him, and Cunningham, who they picked up off the scrap heap early in spring. So Ellis has just not shown them enough to get out there as a linebacker from the line of scrimmage. If they add Nakobe Dean, we got to subtract somewhere. You and I have fun playing these roster games on Birds 365 almost on a daily basis as the Eagles need to make these decisions. Is Christian Ellis a lock to be sticking around just because of his special team value?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. They have plenty of other options before. Obviously, he hasn't, a lot of people speculated he might be a part of the conversation on linebackers. So maybe that part's disappointing. But I mean, he's a core 4 guy, as they say. So I'll try to pull it up. I mean, the Eagles, by the way, have been much better on special teams this year overall. And I'll look up that. Remember, they were bottom 5, whether you went with film, PFF, whether you went with Rick Gosselin, who compiles every special team statistic and rates it that way. They were bottom 5 in the NFL last year. It was the one thing they were really poor at. And it was pretty consistently poor, and they got a little bump from Christian, as you mentioned, but yeah, so he's played 99 special team snaps, and so is Patrick Johnson. So those are the 2 core guys, and then it goes down to 92 for Ringo, and then you go all the way down to the 70s. So, and there's only one guy in the 70s and one guy in the 60s. So he is a big, big part of not only 1 or 2 units, every unit they have. And there are plenty of other options to move on from and manipulate the back end of the roster. Yeah, he's safe. He's a big part. And they're 7th in the NFL from PFF right now.
Really? That's a nice rating.
7th in the NFL, and he's a big, big part of that. And Ringo, by the way, we've been talking about Ringo because he's been a disappointment at cornerback, and he has, but he's been a really good special teams player. And so is Sidney Brown when he's healthy. And those 2 guys have really improved things because of their athleticism and their ability to not only cover, but Michael Clay's been mentioning, they've been good blockers on the outside for Britton Covey, and he's had a tremendous year so far. And obviously Jake Elliott helps you on special teams.
Right. Jake and Covey are the 2 biggest reasons I think that you're seeing not just an improvement, a massive improvement. When you're going from the bottom to top 10, that's a pretty damn big jump. So kudos to both the players and to Michael Clay, who I questioned during this off-season because he was that bad and didn't quite understand why the Eagles felt the need to give him a contract extension coming off a season where they're one of the lowest-ranked specialty teams in the National Football League. Didn't seem to add up, but hey, his units are getting the job done, so we give him the props that he deserves. You mentioned Sidney Brown. No practice. He is coming off a week in which he sat with the hamstring injury. You noted with us several times last week that you be very careful with speed guys with the hamstrings injury, because if you put them back in too early, boom, there it goes again, can miss even more time. So do you think they're going to be overly cautious with Sidney Brown again this week? Probably not know until practice today.
Yeah, probably. If he's not practicing, that's a really bad sign. If he's practicing even on a limited basis, which I think he would be, then it's a good sign. And they're probably going to ramp him up this week. They said when it originally happened, it was the lowest grade of hamstring strain. So, 2 to 4 weeks, if you want to be really cautious. You look at Justin Jefferson, they put him on IR, or they're going to put him on IR, completely shut him down for 4 weeks. You can't mess with those things with speed guys, as I said. So the Eagles are going to be really cautious. Now that Roby's here, it's not imperative to get him in the nickel as much as they were trying to piecemeal it through in Tampa when he did it for the first time. So you don't have to be concerned about that as much as well. So I think they'll be ultra cautious and make sure he's 100%. But yeah, I don't know where he is, and we'll get a better indication of when we get the practice report late this afternoon. If he's not practicing, that's probably an indication he's not going to be up this week.
Listen to Sirianni in his day after press thing after everybody got back from LA, and he was specifically asked about how he used players in the nickel look the other day, and that a couple of guys already here got a chance, played some, but then were removed. And when Roby went in, he pretty much stayed there the rest of the game. And oh, by the way, the play at that position improved. So yeah, Roby's the man going forward. Is he going to start this week? Do they think he can play as many snaps as the rest of? Well, he's not going to play as many as the corners, because the nickel back is off at least some plays each and every single game, depending on what the other team puts out there as far as the lineup goes. How many snaps do you think we're going to see out of Roby this weekend?
Well, I was given the number 70 specifically last week, and I said, well, he can't play 70 plays. Now, they didn't play 70. He ended up playing 25, I think. So you would think he ramps up from 25. Now, the hope with the Jets is they're not going to be out there for a lot of plays with Zach Wilson. So could he play 45, 50 plays? Yeah, I think so. He's in, as most NFL cornerbacks, he's in tremendous physical shape. He knows how to play. He's a veteran, savvy. I think he can play the whole game at nickel, especially if, as I said, the Jets struggle offensively, which I think most people expect them to do. Yeah, so I think he's going to be the nickelback this week, and it's not going to be now if things start to go in the negative direction, and he starts to show some rust, and for some reason the Jets start clicking and they're out there for 70 plays, yeah, then maybe some other guys got to get involved. But I think we saw enough of Mario Goodrich and Eli Ricks in the slot. I don't think they played themselves on the field more. Now, Goodrich, I feel a little bit sorry for, because he got 2 opportunities. One was against Justin Jefferson and one was against Cooper Kupp. I mean, those are the breaks. And Ricks, I mean, that's unfair.
I feel more sorry for him than I do for Goodrich, because you're asking him to play a position that he never played in college, and now all of a sudden, and he too, when he's in there, is going up against, well, he didn't play the week before, so he's not going against Jefferson, he's going against Kupp, and Kupp took advantage of both Ricks and Goodrich in the slot. So that's the want of an NFL defensive back. When they put you in, you got to cover a guy who's really good. That's your job, is to not get burnt by him.
Yeah. That's difficult. We saw Emmanuel Forbes with Washington, who's, whatever, the 15th overall pick in the draft, 16, whatever he was. And they threw him out there against A.J. Brown. And again, that's a first round. That's a high level first round pick. And he just got abused. So when you're facing these top level receivers, it's difficult, but that's the job. And everybody's got good receivers now, it seems. I mean, the Jets, I love Garrett Wilson. I mean, I don't know if they got anybody to get him the ball, but I love he's difficult to deal with. So it doesn't matter who you're playing. That's during the Carson Wentz era when Carson was playing well and the Eagles didn't have any receivers. It was mind-boggling because everybody's got receivers now. That's what they're growing at the college level, because even back to high school, well, I talked about it when I saw that kid from Roman Catholic. All they do in the offseason is play 7-on-7. So you get all these tremendous receivers. And the Eagles couldn't find some for a long time, and they finally cured it with Devontae and then AJ in back-to-back years.
And Quez. Don't forget Quez.
I'm not putting Quez in that category.
Just checking. And by the way, the Jets wide receivers should not put the fear of God into anybody other than Garrett Wilson. Alan Lazard has played well. I won't say great, but he's played well. But they also, during this offseason, went out and got McCole Hardman, who they thought was going to be a contributor for them. He's giving them nothing. And when I mean nothing, I mean he has 1 reception through 6 games. Damn close to nothing. And from what I heard from a buddy, he's not even a popular guy in the locker room because he's always complaining about he doesn't get the ball enough, or he doesn't get open enough.
A receiver complaining about not getting the ball?
Yeah.
Shocking.
Guy who's got 1 catch for them. And they specifically brought in the Aaron Rodgers' number 1 friend and buddy and pal, who has done nothing for him at the wide receiver spot, either Randall Cobb.
And Randall's defense, how old is he now? I mean, he's been around for a while. Yeah,
didn't keep him from giving him a couple of $1 million to come in and play because Aaron Rodgers said so. So that's a nice thing when you're old.
Well, if the GM wants him, the GM wants him. And A-Rod was the GM there for a while.
At least the assistant GM, if not the actual GM. And he was making some calls. So the Eagles' defensive secondary should not be overburdened. If they can keep Garrett Wilson from catching the football, that don't look for the Jets to go out to be piling up yards. Last week against the Rams, Stafford kind of picked them apart for the first 2 quarters of that game. A lot of yards through the air, and looked like they had no answers for Cooper Kupp. I wouldn't be near as afraid of the Jet wide receivers this week coming.
I like the Jets tight end. They tight ends.
Conklin's a nice player. He had a big catch for him last night.
Uzama's still okay.
I think he's been playing with injuries, but he has been playing. But Ty Conklin made a big catch for them. Maybe the biggest play of the game against the Broncos.
And they got the young kid too. They got 3 tight ends who, if Aaron was there, they would look better. But it's disappointing. It's disappointing.
That's Mr. Wilson at quarterback. That's why the Eagles are a 7-point favorite. It opened up at 6. It went to 6.5. It's now going to 7. It has done nothing but elevate, and I think it'll actually be over 7 by the time we get to the game on Sunday.
I think that's low, by the way.
Yeah, it might be. He's McMullen. I'm McDonald. You got Mac here on Birds 365. We got our buddy Mike Gill. Yes. I specifically put on a red shirt today. Not that we don't appreciate Eagle Green. Can't wear green in front of a green screen anyway. So that's never an option for yours truly. But we're showing a little love for the Phillies today. Mike Gill's got some red shirt on. We'll find out what red shirt that is. Mike Gill from the Sports Bash down at Shore joins us next here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Staffing is not easy, but that's what we do every day, all day. The key to our success is storytelling, asking the right questions to find the right people. Hi, I'm Gary Kane, president of Kane Partners. We want to be your staffing partner.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, we prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
You got Mac and Mac with you here on Birds 365, and we got Mike Gill from down the shore, the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN Radio, and he's got. Are you all out hoodie today, or is that a T-shirt? What are you donning there, big guy?
Arizona State, man.
Oh, Devils baseball.
To find you a
yeah.
I went deep into the closet to find you a college I have yet to
nice.
wear yet.
Arizona State, legendary baseball program, I would say.
I was out there at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Oh, is that when you grabbed the shirt?
Well, yeah, but and the baseball team I coach, we basically use the same color scheme and everything.
Oh, I did not know that. We're learning something every day. All right, before we get into all the Eagle conversation with you, how about West Virginia 4-1? They're actually hanging in the conference race in the Big 12.
This is all false hope, Jody. Come on, man. They actually play Thursday night, so I'm hoping that, well, the Phillies are going to be a conflict, so I'm going to have to be doing a little, checking on the phone and stuff. But
by the way, I'm really upset at Major League Baseball 5:07 start time. Come on, I got to get out of South Philly right at that time. Come on, baseball.
Yeah, I don't like the 5:00. I don't like any sport. We can put it to any sport. I don't like any sport, and football doesn't do this generally, but I don't like any sport that plays your most important games at non-important times. Like, you play in the regular season in a fixed time almost the entire year. I don't like putting a game of optimal importance at a time that is completely out of your routine. Basketball does it all the time, too. You put a playoff game, in the middle of the afternoon on a Saturday. It's like, you don't play Saturday.
TV rules all.
I
say it all the time.
Both you guys know why this is the case. It's not like
TV
they're
rules all.
doing
What
it
TV
randomly.
wants-
They're doing it because they have a very large TV contract, and they're going to air those games as most they can without competition from another game. So that's what happens. You get 5:07
Oh,
games.
I get it.
Yeah.
But
yeah. In fact, I always tell Jody, I laugh when Sports Business Journal or some of these sports business publications, they always do those lists, top 50 most powerful people in sports. And they'll put like Roger Goodell at number 1, maybe the Premier League leader number 2, whatever, whomever that is. It's the TV execs, man. They're the most powerful people in sports. That's the guys who signed the checks.
The TV execs are the reason why the Pac-12 has crumbled.
Yeah.
It's non-existent anymore.
Yeah. They get what they want.
Yeah.
Because they spend the most money. That's how it works, unfortunately.
But somebody on the other end has to be negotiating that deal, and Roger Goodell has done a good job getting.
Oh, he's powerful. He's just not as powerful as the guys signing the checks.
That's right.
Those are the most powerful. But I digress. Let's talk about the Eagles, Mike Gill.
5-0, man.
Yeah, 5-0, but there's still a lot of people who think this team isn't 5-0 good because the style points aren't there. Where are you on that scale, Mike? Do you need style points? You need them at West Virginia, but do you need them in Philadelphia in the NFL?
Right. No, I don't need style points in the NFL. I don't. If you went 17-0 and you won 3-0 every week, you should feel pretty good. Your defense would be excellent in that case. You might have some offensive issues. This team is one of the things that is underrated about what this team is doing, and I think they did this very well in the 17 season, is they're dominating the time of possession. While they're not scoring 35, 40 points, they don't have that game where they've just kind of lit up the score. Actually, they did. They scored 35 points in one of the games, and it just felt like they didn't score all that much. But the time of possession thing is why they have been so dominant, and we saw this against the Rams. This looked like a game that was going to be who has the ball last, and the Eagles just never gave them the ball back. They couldn't get them off the field. They extended drives. The third down was huge. They had a guy with, A.J. Brown had a monster game. Goddard had a huge game. They threw the running ball back to the ball to the running back 6 times in the game. DeAndre Swift, how many times did a running back catch 6 passes last year? So the fact that their offense is able to just grind you out, keep you on the field, wear you down, that's going to be a problem for some of these teams. Now San Francisco, looking big picture, San Francisco's got a pretty good defense. Dallas's defense is pretty good, but I think we've seen that the Dallas team, I think we're seeing is a step below probably the other two. And then there's really Miami. I don't know that their defense is this ferocious defense. You've got them coming up. The Buffalo defense has lost some parts. Kansas City's not really known for their defense as much as they are. They're kind of, an offensive team. So which defense? This Jets defense is pretty good. So which defense on the schedule coming up is going to have the fortitude to go toe-to-toe with you as you're just marching your way up and down the field? Now, eventually you're going to have to put it in the end zone when you get inside the 20s, but I would imagine that will come as this season continues to roll.
Well, I'll tell you one defense that is coming at some point, and it's going to be the game of the year, is the 49ers, because their defense is pretty damn good. I saw them shut down the Cowboys on Sunday night and give them almost no chance. I need to give credit to another guy who hops on with us, not as regular as you, Gil, but often enough. Brandon Lee Gouton. I got these stats from him in his latest posting about the Eagles and the red zone. We all agree the red zone, not as good as it has been, could be so far this year. Red zone possessions where DeAndre Swift was on the field. It has resulted in 5 field goals and 6 touchdowns. Red zone
possessions. He's been on the field that much. Sorry to interrupt.
11 possessions into the red zone, 5 field goals, 6 touchdowns. Possessions that have gone into the red zone with Kenny Gainwell as the main man on the field. 4 field goals, 1 touchdown, 1 turned it over on downs, and 2 end of games just ran out the clock thereafter. So in possessions where the number one guy has been Swift, 6 touchdowns in 11 tries. When Gainwell has been there, 1 touchdown in 8 tries. John told me all preseason, even up to week 1, when Gainwell got all the carries and DeAndre Swift got 1, that the Eagles trust Kenny Gainwell, that it's a trust thing, that they want him in the high leverage spots, which would, of course, include the red zone. They overall reevaluated who should be the guy who gets the ball most, rightfully so, after Swift did what he did. So they proved to us they're open to changing their mind and reevaluating as they go. Is it time to reevaluate that Kenny Gainwell is a red zone ball carrier for the Eagles?
I think the numbers would suggest that, and I think the numbers suggest that when Swift it would be out there, that would be less attention on the others because they've got to put more attention on him. So yeah, and I think that's one of the things that it will be evolving as the season goes on. You know, we had a good conversation about this yesterday. I was asking Colin Thompson, who played tight end in the league, and I said, when you guys sit in a room, when you're in a meeting, is there a week where the offensive coordinator says, all right, you know, he played in Carolina, Christian McCaffrey, get ready. You're getting the 30 touches this week. DJ Moore, we're going to you a lot. He said, well, not necessarily. Everybody just knows their role. You know what your plays are, and you take what the other team gives you. As the game evolves, they're taking DJ Moore out. All right, McCaffrey, get ready. We're going to start going to you more. I think the Eagles right now are doing something similar. The Goddard, they didn't say, let's just throw the ball to Goddard more. He just was the guy they said, you want to throw the ball to Goddard, get him the ball. And I think inside the red zone, you'll probably start to see teams not being able to focus on things so much as the season evolves. We saw it a little bit with this week with Hurts. They ran the quarterback power draw inside the red zone. I think if they start opening that kind of stuff up a little bit more, that red zone will probably expand a little bit. So I'm not so concerned with their red zone, but you're right. I think having Swift on the field will add another guy that you have to pay attention to, which then when you say, well, what's the defense giving me? They're not giving me Swift. Oh, they're giving me Goddard. So if Swift's on the field, that opens up more options.
By the way, and that's Jody brings up those numbers. You know, Nick Sirianni, I just looked at it yesterday, is 26-6 as a head coach since that 2-5 start, which sources tell me is pretty good. But anyway, he does make mistakes. You know, I spoke all training camp that Kenny Gainwell was going to be the lead back. Week 1, Kenny Gainwell was the lead back. If he doesn't get hurt in that game, he's the lead back in week 2. You may never be in this position if he keeps playing at an acceptable level, but, you know, some good, some bad, like he played in Foxborough. You might not even know DeAndre Swift has been DeAndre Swift at this point. So sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. But when it comes to the red zone, I got to tell you guys, it's to me, it's not about the running back. It's not about the quarterback in the running game. They don't throw the ball enough in the red zone. And everybody has figured it out, and they are playing run first in the red zone. And the Eagles, for whatever reason, don't use their big bodies enough. And I'm talking about A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert. Sometimes you're in the it's this closed, and you got to go, all right, he's got the big body. He's got the big body. Throw it up where only the receiver can get it and the 5'10" corner can't get it. They don't do that enough. And if you'd start doing that and start having some success, then the running game opens back up. That's what I think that's what I think the problem.
So, John, let me ask you a question on that front. Difference in play calling? Is that on Brian Johnson?
No, they didn't do it last year either, but they were successful last year. They were tremendously successful with the quarterback run game, especially in the red zone. So everybody adapted to that. How many touchdowns did Jalen have last year running the football? It's like 13 14, whatever.
Yeah.
Tremendous success with the quarterback run game. He only had, I think, 22 touchdown passes. Remember, everybody was, Jalen's only got 22 touchdown passes. Right. And everybody came into this season and said, all right, they're going to run the ball. This is condensed. Let's make sure the quarterback doesn't run the football. They're in 2nd and 11, 3rd and 11. They're not getting anything. And then bang, you're behind the 8 ball. They don't throw it enough in the red zone. That's what I think's going on.
Yeah,
now,
I mean, you figure that you have A.J. Brown, a guy that you can go one-on-one, high point the ball, go get it. You feel like you could run something one-on-one to him almost every single time.
Now, they did it once, and I forget where the football was. They did it once in Los Angeles. It didn't work out. They tried back shoulder, and they were on different pages, which is bad. And maybe it's bad because they never do it. And they tried to back shoulder.
Who I forget, but somebody came blitz and he jumped up and Hurts had to throw it a little high and AJ Brown dropped it.
Well, yeah. I mean
that was a clear touchdown. It was a slant one.
Yeah.
It might have been against Washington.
There's no guarantee, but you open things up. If you're willing to throw the football, you open up, and that'll help you get back to where you want to be with the quarterback run game, especially.
Well, and John, the game the other day, and Sirianni, somebody asked him about this Monday, I guess, he said it's not about play calling, it has something more to do with like recognizing, and he had Watkins was doing laps in the back of the end zone there, and he just didn't see him. I mean, as the season goes on, does he see that he's wide open there? Because no one's paying attention to Watkins with the other guys on this field. And if he's in there running a good route, he's in the back of the end zone going like this, and he just doesn't get the throw.
Well, yeah, but I hate to kill quarterbacks. I mean, one of my pet peeves is people put film on, and you guys have seen it, where, your progression's on the right side of the field and a receiver's on the other side of the field waving his arms and he's wide open. Well, the defense knows where the progression is. Once you start breaking it, generally goes high, low. And then, if you get to number 3, which most modern teams don't even get to number 3, but it's usually a safety valve pass. So, they're like, the quarterback is got a play in this progression in mind. He's looking that way.
Yeah.
Now, the Quez stuff, when things get off schedule and somebody's wide open, Jalen usually did it with Olamide. Both of Olamide's big catches in Tampa were off schedule.
Right.
He was just running around, making a play, sandlot football. But yeah, the progression thing's a pet peeve. He's not an owl. He can't turn his head. If the progression's one spot, you're not necessarily going to see another spot. And that's every quarterback. That's not just Jalen Hurts. But anyway.
Jason Avant, I saw him on NBC Sports Philly this morning breaking down some film, and they showed you play where if you just look at regular speed in the game, looks like Jalen Hurts overthrew Quez Watkins on a crossing route. And Jason broke it down and said, Quez ran the route short. You're supposed to be able to position yourself in front of the safety, but behind the linebacker. And if Quez had been 2 yards further downfield where he was supposed to be, it hits him right in the chest rather than above his head, and he's got to go up and make a play. So you have to know what the route and where you're supposed to be on the route before you take the quarterback to task for not being able to get the ball where he's supposed to get it. All right, so any fear of the Jets quarterback this week? Come on. Zach Wilson, tremendous arm talent. I was told by many, including my partner.
Yeah, he does, by the way. You ever see that guy? He can freaking sling it, man. He does have tremendous arm talent. I stand by that statement.
You need more than arm talent in the National.
Oh, that's true. Obviously. But he can throw the football.
Zach is lacking in a lot of other characteristics that you need to be a very good quarterback.
All I'm saying is he can throw the football. That's all I'm saying.
All right. You have fear that this is the week that arm talent comes to the top, and he picks the Eagles secondary apart. I don't. Do you?
Not a Zach Wilson guy. Wasn't out of BYU. Hated the pick for the Jets. Didn't think the kid could play a lick. Arm talent, great. Everything else, awful. Decision-making, confidence, all of it.
Yeah, he's got no confidence.
He's got no
Zero.
confidence. The team doesn't believe in him. They didn't want him. I mean, realistically, they got Aaron Rodgers, and the team was like, thank God we got rid of that clown. And they had to go right back to him, and you see the results. Now he's gotten a little better. I guess last week he was pretty efficient, but not a lot of yards. They got a great player in Wilson. I feel bad for that guy. I mean, he's got stuck with Zach Wilson, and it's not like this Wilson thing's working out all that well. Hall is a nice running back. Their offensive line is horrendous, and that doesn't help the poor kid. But no, this is a quarterback where in years past the Eagles would beat up on a bad quarterback, and you'd say, well, they haven't played a good quarterback yet. This would be one of those weeks. Their defense, though, is a problem. Their defense is very good, especially in the secondary. So this should be an interesting test in terms of it might not be an aesthetically pleasing game, but I don't think you should be concerned about the quarterback marching up and down the field on you. You think about what the Rams have. Look at the talent they have at wide receiver, and the quarterback is a very, very capable player. And they had problems moving up and down the field eventually. Now, their line's a problem. I think the Jets' line is probably worse. Would we agree?
Well, and they lost Elijah Barrett-Tucker as well to a torn Achilles. So, yeah, it's not a great offense. I mean, that was one of the issues that people kind of looked at with Aaron Rodgers. Was the offensive line good enough? But I got to tell you, you know who loves Zach Wilson? The best GM in the NFL. Loved him. Loved him, loved him, loved him. The Jets weren't the only team who thought Zach Wilson can play.
Much like you said earlier in the show, John, sometimes it's better be lucky than good.
Yes,
correct.
Well,
Zach
we've
Wilson
documented
did
many
here in
times
Philadelphia.
how many times Roseman has gotten lucky with some decisions, and I'm never been a Roseman.
Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, you do have to get lucky at times, and who knows if he gets here with a better situation?
That's true.
Who knows? Who knows?
That's true. He has had some challenged offensive coaching over, Robert Saleh, not an offensive guy. They bring in Hackett to run the offense, who was highly criticized for what he did in Denver. I don't know how to read that.
Yeah, how's that looking for you, Sean Payton? You go running your mouth about Hackett and the god-awful coaching job he did. Guess what? Your team's worse under you, pal. What's your answer now, Sean? How bad does Hackett's coaching look as compared to what you're doing with that squad?
That whole thing to me is the most perplexing story in the NFL is what happened to Russell Wilson and now what happened to Sean Payton. I thought for sure Payton would come in there and clean that mess up, and it's been disastrous.
They're terrible. Don't get me wrong, but
they were the team that people thought could win the Super Bowl last year. They got Russell Wilson. They had one of the best defenses.
Well, their whole
league.
plan, number one, their whole plan with Nathaniel Hackett was to get Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, well, they ended up with Russell Wilson. Boo-hoo.
Well, yeah, but Nathaniel Hackett couldn't run an offense without Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Sean Payton wasn't wrong about that.
That's fine. I'm saying last
year
they had one of the best defenses. They had one of the best defenses in the league last year. Their defense is horrendous now.
Yeah, well, that's true, and they've gotten much worse. And moving on from that, he's in Carolina now. The DC down there was probably a mistake by Sean Payton. He's never cared that much about defense. He's one of those guys. He's a complete offense. Russell's actually played better this year than last year.
Yes,
pretty significantly better. So I don't think he's been the problem. But yeah, they're terrible.
Unbelievable.
And that's some karma calling out some other coach. Look, he did a bad job. He did a terrible job. There's no sugarcoating. Nathaniel Hackett was completely overmatched as a head coach in this league, but there's no reason for Sean Payton to say that. Mind your own business. You gotta turn around your own team.
And then he loses to him. I mean, my God.
Yeah. And he loses to him with Zach Wilson. But here's what I'll say about Zach Wilson. Jody, you can talk about this more. He showed signs against Kansas City. Now, I didn't see the Denver game, but they won that game. And maybe it was they were fired up because of the Peyton comments. I don't know what went on, but they haven't looked bad for 2 weeks now. They haven't, I mean, Kansas City, he had technically outplayed Patrick Mahomes in that game, technically.
Yeah.
But that was one of the worst games Patrick Mahomes has had. Now, that has a lot to do with the Jets defense, which is very talented. But he showed some signs. Is that wrong to say?
Overstating it a little bit. They win this past week for 2 words, a reason. Brees Hall ran the ball right.
Well, yeah,
down the
he had a big
throat,
game.
so
He had a big game.
I'm not going to give Zach Wilson any credit for Brees Hall going for $165. And oh, by the way, and that's behind a questionable Jets offensive line. I don't know when Tucker got hurt in the game, but the Jets offensive line hadn't been good just in general this year. This is the only reason why I think this game may be competitive. Eagles should win against the Jets. It's gone from 6 to 6.5 to 7 points, and I think it may go higher than 7 points. This is the best running back the Eagles have faced this year. 5 games. There hasn't been a world beater in the backfield of any of their opponents. New England, Minnesota, Tampa, Washington. Probably the kid that they faced this past week was the best running back they played. Any concerns that, the Eagles have done a good job at defending the run, but they haven't been all that challenged by the opposition. This is the best running back they're going to play. Should we be worried about the fact that somebody might run the ball against the Eagles?
I don't think so. We talked about this, I think, with you, John, yesterday. You know, the Eagles lost Javon Hargrave, who's having a great season in San Francisco. He's got 3 sacks. We talk about Jalen Carter, 3.5 sacks. Hargrave's got 3. You lost Hargrave, and his name hasn't been mentioned one time by anybody in the. Oh man, we lost Hargrave. That's why. Yeah, no,
Mike, I asked you about the run. Hargrave wasn't great against the run. Losing Hargrave against the run, upgrade as a matter of fact.
Well, I'm getting. So my point is no, because the Eagles' defensive front got better against the run. They've got Carter and Davis now. So these teams don't even try to run. The Rams barely didn't even try last week. So the Eagles are so much better against the run this year than they were last year. We talked about last year. Yeah, Brees Hall would be somebody you would be concerned about because you had more pass rushing guys. Hargrave's a guy who went after the passer, didn't care about the run all that much. This defensive front and the lack of talent on the offensive line from the Jets, I think it's just a bad matchup. They might try it. They might do what Washington did. We'll run it a lot, but not with a lot of success. Now, he might be a little bit more explosive and give them something, but I wouldn't think that that would be something you should be overly concerned with.
All right, the clock has started on Nakobe Dean, Mike Gill. If he is completely healthy, and I've seen Nakobe, he traveled to Los Angeles, by the way. He looks good. He doesn't look in any discomfort with the foot. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he's ready, but if he is ready, and for this exercise, I'm going to say he is ready, do you just insert him back in as the middle linebacker?
This is a tough one for me because I like Dean a lot. I thought he was going to have a big impact on this defense, doing a lot of the things that we see Morrow doing. Sacked, in position anyway for an interception. He should have caught that interception last week. That's the type of player I thought you were going to get with Dean, that they were going to really try to build stuff and use his talents. I don't know that he gets the bulk of the snaps again. I don't think they just throw him right back out there and you're 100%. But we talked about this, I think, last week with the green dot. Who calls the defenses? How do they handle all that? Is it going to be him and Morrow? Does Cunningham get kind of knocked out here? I would say no. I don't think they're going to go right. He almost is Kenneth Gainwell in this spot where he's going to get some snaps probably, but maybe not right away.
Oof, that makes Nick Morrow, DeAndre Swift. He's played well, man. Nick Morrow's played well.
They've used him well, though. I mean, they put him in good positions. I think Desai has done a good job of, designing or just kind of hiding him and using him.
That's why, this is the ultimate complimentary game. I mean, he played behind the worst defensive front in football, literally the worst in Chicago. And he's now behind the best, literally.
Yeah.
It makes you look better. But he also deserves credit, and this is where I also give Brock Purdy credit, my Brock Purdy credit. Look, Kyle Shanahan, I talk about it all the time, gets more out of his quarterbacks than anybody else. But Jimmy Garoppolo didn't win to the level of Brock Purdy, so we got to start giving Brock Purdy some credit. Similar to Nick Morrow. Yeah, everybody's better behind this defensive front. So is the Eagles secondary. But they haven't played as well as Nick Morrow, Zach Cunningham, or Nakobe Dean. So at some point, Seth brought this up to me, and I said, "You're nuts. They're going back to Nakobe Dean." I'm starting to doubt myself. He's playing too well. I think they were waiting for the bad game, and the bad game hasn't come yet.
No,
it's a tough decision.
And
he wasn't as good last week as he was the week
before.
The week before he was great.
You can't get 3 sacks every week.
Right.
I mean, but he was good. He was darn good. Yeah, it's a difficult decision.
I think what gets underrated too, I mean, he gets the sack, so that pops off the page. What did he do in the other plays? I thought last week you saw 41 around the ball, not to mention, in coverage, he almost gets the interception. I think those plays are almost more impactful. The sack, they're great, but they come from other people helping them out and getting so much attention. I just like the way they've been using them. And you're right. You can only say, hey, I'm going to ask you to do something. And if he does it incorrectly, if he doesn't have the good intuition of when to blitz or, he doesn't read what's going on in front of him. But this guy's done a good job of making plays. And that's all you get. And the other side is he's making plays and he's not the reason why plays are happening. They're not target. You used to see Nate Geary out there and they say, okay, let's go to 47. He stinks. And teams would attack him. Singleton was terrible in coverage. They would go after those guys. Morrow's holding his own in coverage as well. So I think that is something that stands out that doesn't get noticed.
Yeah. Well, I will say, coming out of Washington, PFF had him as the 7th best off-ball linebacker in the NFL. Now he's number 5. So
he went up, actually.
He went up.
Week. Damn.
He went up.
That's pretty impressive. All right, Mike Gill, tell me if this conversation happened, either after all the media was out of the locker room or on the plane on the way home from Los Angeles. I was a little perturbed with Nick Sirianni when he took a backhanded shot at John McMullen, my buddy, and to a lesser extent, you and me. We're not Eagle Beat guys. We're not there every single day. When someone asked him after the game about Jalen Hurts' running ability, he said, yeah, and what did y'all say? He can't do it anymore? Well, nobody said that, Coach. You just made that up. Some members of the media asked, why is Jalen getting less yards rushing this year? I didn't see. I went through every article and I never saw anyone go, y'all said he can't do it anymore. So that got under my skin. But Nick is on record as saying they did tell Jalen that he needs to pick and choose his spots, and they do put his health as a premium thing that the Eagles have to take care of. He ran the ball with reckless abandon this week, like 2020, like it was 2022 again. Do you think there was a conversation afterwards between either he and Brian Johnson or he and Nick Sirianni, and they said, Jalen, we love it. Thank you very much for helping us win the game. But remember what we discussed. You can't be putting yourself at risk. You put yourself at risk a couple times this past week. I thought we were all on the same page here. This is not what we can afford to do with you. Did that conversation take place between one of Jalen's coaches and the Eagles quarterback?
I wouldn't be surprised. And it was almost like Hurts has heard, hey, he doesn't look the same and he's not running as much and he's sliding and he doesn't want to. And he was like, I'm sick of hearing this. I'm just doing it. And I'll take the repercussions later. I'm sure they've hammered it home on him is, hey, you got to make sure we get you through this season. We can't get you hurt. And maybe he just was, we all have that moment. I'm going to show these people I can still do this because there were a lot of times in that game we were watching it and said, they haven't done that all season, or he hasn't run like that. There's a lot of times where Man, there was numerous plays where he lowered, got the extra yards, where earlier this year he was just kind of sliding into second base and living to fight another play. Not so much as on Sunday. What do you have? Double-digit carries in the game. He led the team in rushing.
Yep.
That was something, and I talked about this on my show. I said, DeAndre Swift, second in the league in yardage. He didn't beat Hurts the other day because Hurts played a game that was reminiscent, running the ball that we saw a year ago. But yes, Jody, I'm pretty sure they probably said, not every week can you do that, man. Okay, last week we got away with it, but you can't do it.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think it changes this week because the Jets are really talented. I think it had more to, honestly, and the Eagles say this, so people get mad at me, but it truly is dependent on opponent. I mean, the Rams have terrible linebackers, terrible, and they play terribly. And all of a sudden, you go in to face the Jets, and they have really good linebackers and really good linebackers, arguably. Certainly top 5, I would say, group in the league. And if you go back to New England and Minnesota, and everybody had a spy in Tampa Bay and how good they are, and everybody was spying Jalen Hurts, they weren't doing that. I think it was just like, oh, they're dumb. Let's just do that. I think it really comes down to that. And this week, I would be surprised if we didn't get back to the spy, because the Jets have players who can do that. And I don't think the Rams do. So, and this is where I give the Eagles coaches credit. I think they take advantage of, and they've done that. And that's the most impressive part of the staff to me. They say, all right, this team can't do this. Let's take advantage of it. This week, I think it's going to be back to where we were, and we're going to have that pendulum with why isn't Jalen Hurts running? Well, because Demario Davis is out there. And Quincy, Saints. I'm going back to Jets. Quentin Williams' brother. He's having a great year. Quincy's having a great year.
And Mosley. They got two very good linebackers.
And CJ Mosley
very good.
Is a very good player. Yeah. I mean, I think we're going to get the pendulum, and it's going to be the exact opposite. Why he ran last week? Yeah, it's Rosenboom, and their linebackers are awful. That's why he ran.
Their defense has a lot of young guys playing new positions over there. But
the two worst players, I'll put the two worst players graded by PFF were Christian Roseboom, the weak side linebacker, the guy and Michael Hecht, their other linebacker. The two worst players on the field.
Jeez.
I mean, that's why.
This is the I'm gonna give you this week. My player prop would be DeAndre Swift, whatever. Not Swift. Devontae Smith, whatever his over is. I'm taking the over
at both targets, yards.
That's a good
touchdowns.
One. Yeah, because the Eagles are going to be cognizant of getting him the football.
And they were with Dallas Goedert when he got 0 catches week number 1. And they threw it to him 7 times the week thereafter. He made 6 catches, but he only got 22 yards. This week, they threw it to him plenty, and he caught the ball down the field, and he was able to make plays and get yards after catch. New design, do you think, Mike? Do you think they just said, all right, we were smart enough to throw it to Dallas. Now we just need to get Dallas in a better position to make plays and get yards thereafter. Do you think they changed the way
I would imagine you're going to see a lot of Sauce Gardner and A.J. Brown. I think that's going to be a fun matchup on that side. And look, by the way, I've had the sauce. It's pretty darn good, actually. They sent me some sauce. It's very good. He's got his own barbecue sauce, Gardner does. So I would imagine you're not going to want to try to go after him throughout the course of the game a whole heck of a lot, which would open things up for Smith, I would imagine. I'm just, Wednesday morning quarterbacking here thinking that Sauce Gardner would get A.J. Brown. He might be matched up on Smith from time to time, but I would think that you're not going after Sauce Gardner, and Smith will probably be the guy that benefits from that. No, I wouldn't say that A.J. Brown's just going to be completely neutralized in the game, but I think Smith will have a big game just because of the matchup there. You're not going to just not throw the ball because of Sauce Gardner, I think but the Jets secondary is pretty good in general. It's not just him. They got very good safety play.
Their whole defense is freaking good. Quentin Williams is great.
They got a major question mark this week in the secondary. DJ Reed did not play last week.
DJ still hurt.
Yeah, he's questionable for this upcoming week. They have not made a statement. There's been no Jet injury release even estimation yet because, the Eagles, they haven't practiced yet. But he did not play last week, and he's the pair of those cornerbacks in New York is absolutely comparable to the two here in Philadelphia.
But I think Smith would be the guy. But I also think that the Jets, one area you can probably, the Eagles can run the ball a little bit on this team. I would imagine you take some shots there. The kid last week from Denver, now he caught the ball a little bit. McLaughlin, was that his name? Jaleel McLaughlin. He caught the ball a little bit, but they ran the ball with a little bit of success last week.
At Mike Gill Show, follow Mike on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. ESPN South Jersey, the Sports Bash, 2 to 6. By the way, I'll do some business on air, Mike. I'm going to be walking off the field, so I'll probably be there at 3:05, 3:05-ish. And I got to beat that Phillies traffic. Got to get in the car, got to get out of there. So you can listen to me on the Sports Bash later. Last one from me. It defensively, this is a respite game, probably. We talked a little bit about Zach Wilson, but my biggest concern with this Eagles team is right up the middle on defense, in the passing game, specifically. And Miami's on the horizon. You hate to look ahead, but you're concerned with the middle of the field on the defense. So we're talking about slot corner, linebackers, safeties in the passing game. Is it good enough, or does the defensive line have to do it every week?
Well, that's the problem. Yeah, I was going to say it's good enough when the defensive line does their job. They weren't good enough in the first half last week. They were good enough in the second half. Well, what happened? The second half, they turned up the pressure. They got 2 sacks from Reddick late in the game. You got some hits and pressures from Carter in the middle of the game. When they get the whole thing is it's one of those things where the whole defense is predicated on them getting pressure because they know their limitations at the other areas of the field. So if you're telling me, we saw this in the Washington game, the pass rush wasn't good enough. So guess what? Neither was the secondary or the linebackers, and they went up and down the field all day long. I thought what's underrated with Washington is they had multiple. And we talk about this all the time. The Eagles defense is predicated on you're going to have to go on 9, 10, 11, 12 play drives. And those drives are going to have to end up with 6. A lot of times the Eagles give up these 9, 10, 11, 12 play drives that you suck up 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes, and you only end up with 3 points. Well, Washington was able to convert those long drives into 6 points, and that's why they were in that game. The Rams, they could not get those long drives going. They had just, bad throw here, penalty there, something happens here. But no, to answer your question, the Eagles linebackers in the middle of the field, not good enough in coverage, but it gets masked when they're good enough in the pass rush. And a week like this against the Jets, you would hope that their pass rush wins that battle again.
All right, so we're all leaning toward the Eagles getting to 6-0 with a win over the Jets on Sunday. The real question is, can the Mountaineers get to 5-1?
It's a tough one,
Houston,
man. Dana
Thursday
Holgerson,
night.
The old ball coach is back. Dana Holgerson, the Houston Cougars this week, Thursday night. It's funny because my girlfriend went to ECU, and they also play on Thursday night. So we got a third TV in the mix for this. But
ECU, they seem to always play on Thursday night. I feel like Eastern Carolina gets a lot of Thursday night games.
Well, you got that AAC contract, so they throw those.
Temple, that goofball.
I don't like the coach. They're winning right now, kind of in spite. But
where's ECU? Greenville,
North Carolina. Yep, I was just there a couple 2 years ago. I went down there.
Nice. Did you
We're
get
going
a
down to
t-shirt?
actually? We're going to see ECU play at Navy. If you ever been to a game at the Naval Academy,
Oh, Annapolis.
Yep, we're going there next month. Meeting up with my guy Colin Thompson.
Yeah, Colin lives down there now.
Yep.
That is a
as long as he doesn't
area.
get signed. If he gets signed, I won't be seeing him. But
You're out. You're out. You're gonna have to go get a t-shirt on your own. Mike Gill, always a pleasure, buddy. Thank you very much for hopping out with us today.
You got it.
Thanks, Mike.
Catch him down the shore on 97.3 ESPN Radio. His show is the Sports Bash, which will have John McMullen on it later this afternoon. So you can catch Johnny Mac again in case you didn't get enough of him today. You got another hour.
I'm also on Damo's podcast. So, you know,
you're going to be
getting
busy
too much.
today.
I'm overexposed, Joe.
And I don't think any of us really want to think about John McMullen being overexposed. That's
Come
just
on.
me.
Don't go down that.
McMullen, McDonald, Mac,
Took
and
a
Mac.
dark
We
turn.
got Chris Franklin yet to come from NJ.com. So stay right here on Birds 365.
If you own a company and you're not producing a podcast, you're missing out. The public consumes messaging when they're ready. Join the professional podcast network of companies and let JAKIB Media Partners put you in the podcast arena. Come to our professional studio or we'll come to your place of business and professionally produce your company podcast. Call JAKIB Media right now at 267-261-3428. 267-261-3428.
My name is Dr. Bruce Grossinger, and I'm the medical director of Philadelphia PRP and Stem Cell Institute. I'm reaching out to those who suffer from spine and joint pain. We use treatment methods that require no surgery, no scalpel, no drugs.
Running, walking, or whatever your desires are, Dr. Grossinger is where you need to come.
You can benefit from the same PRP and stem cell treatment as Wilbert Montgomery. Call us now at 610-222-5675.
Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com. EAGLES, Eagles.
Mac here with you on Birds 365. Like I said before we went to break, Chris Franklin's going to join us coming up in only about 10 or 12 minutes from now. All right, John, one thing I do get out here a lot on Wednesdays here during the season on Birds 365, and always need to qualify before I ever get into it. Power ratings don't mean much. They're fun for conversation. They're fun for debate, but the standings are the only thing that matters in the National Football League. This isn't college football where a group is going to vote who's going to get a chance to play for a championship. They have standings and tiebreakers, and that decides it. So how someone sees or views or ranks is fun for conversation, but it really doesn't have any power behind it. Tuesday is power ranking day. So any outlet, SI like you or CBS or NBC or Pro Football Focus, but they all have their power ratings. And they come out on Tuesday because you got to wait till the two teams play on Monday night. So they didn't come out till after you and I were off the air yesterday. And the Eagles are almost universally second in power rankings around the National Football League. That most of these media outlets have San Francisco number 1 and Eagles number 2. And sorry, even if you're a blatant Eagle fan, you got to agree that that's the case. San Francisco has been better getting to 5-0 than the Eagles have been better getting to 5-0. But at least all these media outlets have the top 2 as the top 2. And they've got the 2 undefeated teams, 1-2, and it's San Francisco and Philadelphia. And more power to them. And then there is the ESPN Power Index, which is supposedly done by computers and simulation.
That's your favorite.
It's my favorite
Football
because
Power Index. ESPN.
It turns up with bad results all the time. It did all last year and had the Dallas Cowboys up as the top 10. Why? Nobody knows. They're second behind Kansas. And they kept overrating the Cowboys. And as Eagle reporters, fans, whatever else, we just love to eat up when the Cowboys are overrated. And they were again this year. But this isn't even an individual. This isn't a group. This is supposed to be a friggin' machine. This is supposed to be a computer. What is it we get that Zander always tells me? Tell them to hit the like button to approve our what again?
Algorithm.
Algorithm. Yeah. This is supposed to be algorithm driven.
Yeah.
And somehow they continue to overrate the Dallas Cowboys and underrate the Philadelphia Eagles.
I assume now I don't look at the ESPN Football Power Index, so I assume the Eagles did not get I assume the Eagles did not get a good ranking.
That would be correct.
And I assume someone other than San Francisco would be number 1.
That would be correct.
So I'm trying to guess who's playing well, but not. And I'm going to go with Detroit.
Nope. As a matter of fact, I think they underrate Detroit.
Can I get, is it a 1-loss team or a 2-loss? I know it's not Miami. So I'm guessing it's a 2-loss team. It can't be Dallas.
No, but Dallas is right ahead of the Eagles. They're not number 1, but
they're ahead of the Eagles still.
Oh yeah. Dallas still ahead of the Eagles.
I'm going to go Baltimore or Buffalo.
It is one of those two. They've got the Bills as the number 1.
Well, I guess,
and they've had the Bills as the number 1 team for a
Bills
while
are better
now,
offensively,
and they didn't knock them off their perch with the loss against the Jaguars in London. So Bills are number 1, San Francisco is number 2, Chiefs are number 3, Dolphins are number 4. At 3-2 after a beatdown, the Dallas Cowboys are still number 5. The Baltimore Ravens are number 6. And at number 7, despite their 5-0 record, is the Philadelphia Eagles. They've got the Eagles.
Yeah. Well,
the algorithm has the Eagles as the 7th best team at 5-0 in the NFL at this juncture.
PFF has them at number 6. And they have their 13 categories and compile them all, and they're number 6. So I think that plays into the fact of they're not playing up to their standard, which most fans agree to. So, if it fuels them, it fuels them. But yeah, I mean, the 2 best teams are San Francisco and Philadelphia. You can pick the order. They're the 2 best teams. And you can make an argument for both. And
really, how would you argue the Eagles added 49ers?
Because they have a better quarterback, they have a better offensive line, they have a better defensive line. That's why if they were playing today or tomorrow, or not, as long as everybody's healthy, I would pick the Eagles because they have the better fronts offensive line, defensive front, and they have a better quarterback. So I would pick the Eagles. Now, if the game's in San Francisco, it would be more difficult, obviously. If the game's in Philadelphia,
if you're comparing the two of them at this point, you just put it at a neutral site game. You wouldn't put it at either.
Yeah, a neutral site, I pick the Eagles because of that reason. I believe the Eagles build the right way, and I believe, they win every game because of their offensive line.
Should you rank them by philosophy, or should you rank them by what they've achieved so far in the first?
Well, they're 5-0. They haven't lost. They've certainly achieved.
Well, as is San Francisco. So you have to come up with something other than 5-0 to compare one to the other.
Well, I'm comparing. What the Eagles have a better. Do you agree the Eagles have a better offensive line?
No, the Eagles have the best offensive line in football. Yes, but
do you agree the Eagles have a better defensive front?
Close, very close. The only team that's even close is San Francisco. Because of Jalen Carter, I might say the Eagles have slightly better at best.
Do you think the Eagles have the better quarterback? And you're a big Brock Purdy guy, but I'm assuming you're not going to lap him yet.
Through 5 games, Brock Purdy has been better than Jalen Hurts.
All right, so that we differ there, but I still think there's more to prove for Brock Purdy than there is to Jalen Hurts, but other people think differently. They think Jalen Hurts isn't a star. I can't reason with those people. Jalen Hurts is what 22 and what are we? 22-1? 21-1?
But who are we comparing him to?
What do you
Brock
mean?
Purdy, who's undefeated.
Well, he's not undefeated. He started one game, didn't finish it, and they lost that game.
But you continue to say the 1 for Jalen Hurts. Well, and the 2 because he lost the Super Bowl.
I mean, if
we're going to count Purdy's loss in the playoffs last year, then you got to count Jalen's loss in the Super Bowl too, right?
Godspeed. If you want to go down on that ship and say Brock Purdy's better than Jalen Hurts,
I said I'll repeat it for you, John, and I'll go slow. To this point, Brock Purdy has been better through the first 5 games of the season than Jalen Hurts. That's what I said.
Well, yeah, but you're saying, why did I pick the Eagles? I'm giving you my reasons. They have a better offensive line, which we agree with. They have a better defensive front, which we agree with, although you're closer than I am. Think they're closer than I do. And I think they have a better quarterback, and you think they don't, at least to this point this season. Is that correctly? Am I correct?
Because that's what we're basing, if we're talking about how you should be ranked at this stage this season. What you've done in previous seasons kind of gets pushed to the side. It's what you've done. You're evaluating what they've done through 5 games.
Well, I just rather have one guy than the other in a big situation. So if the game was, if the NFC Championship game was tomorrow, and you gave me the choice, I'd rather have Jalen Hurts to win that game. That's where I am. Now that's the whole encompassing everything,
right?
And if you would rather have Brock Purdy, that understands why you would rather pick San Francisco. But you asked me, why would I pick the Eagles? Offensive line, defensive front, quarterback. That's why I would pick the Eagles.
How about
That's
linebacker?
Why I would pick the Eagles. The 49ers have better linebackers. I just think the offensive front, the defensive front is more important. The Eagles win every game. Every single game they win is because of one of those 3 things: the offensive line, the defensive front, or the quarterback. Every single game they win can be traced to one of those 3 components. And this week it was the defensive front.
You can say the same thing about the 49ers. Brock Purdy, who's been very good and is a legitimate MVP candidate, and Christian McCaffrey and their own defensive line, although not quite as good as the Eagles, their defensive line, they might be the 2 best defensive lines in all of football. So it isn't like the 49ers are struggling in those key areas as well.
Christian McCaffrey is one of the best running backs I've ever seen. Aaron Donald's one of the best 5 defensive players who ever lived. Everybody's got good players. Everybody's got advantages at certain spots over the Eagles. I love Deebo Samuel. I love Brandon Ayuk. I picked the 49ers to go to the Super Bowl last year. I love Kyle Shanahan. I love everything about the 49ers, but if you're asking me who the better football team is, I think it's the Eagles for those three reasons.
Right. And
for those three, I think it's more important to have that offensive line. And by the way, Sue Pet is in there now instead of Cam Jurgens. You know, if there's another injury, it changes. My thought process will change most likely. If they lose Jalen Carter, if they lose Hassan Reddick, my thought process is probably going to change. But right now, if they're healthy, that offensive line, I say it all the time, and that defensive front they wear people down. I thought they were in trouble at halftime this game. I thought they were in trouble because of their secondary. I thought they were in deep trouble. And the defensive front just said, you know what? All right, we're going to take over this game.
And again, I just asked you a question. You responded the way you responded. I was trying to keep it in the context of how you would rate them at this time. I think that you need to look at what's transpired in the 5 games. You seem to be looking more at how you evaluate the overall talent on the roster as per what they've done in their entire
yeah, but I don't care about it's the style points question. I don't care about style points. The Eagles.
So what would the Eagles have to do to not be the number 1 power ranked team in your eyes?
Lose.
Okay.
You know, if they lose to the Jets, obviously they're not as good as I thought they were. But I don't think they're losing to the Jets.
So if I'm comprehending the way that you did it, and it's why don't you do it any way you want? Record first, how good a roster you think it is second. And the only way you move off who's got the best roster is if you actually have a loss.
Well, or injuries or things of that nature, and you lose good players, anything can happen. But right now, they still have the best offensive line. They still have the best defensive front. They still have a very good quarterback. And those are the 3 key ingredients of why this team has won so many games, whatever it is, 21-1, 22-23, whatever it is, 26-6. Yeah, those are the key ingredients. I mean, this team, and I said it yesterday on the show, this team is incredibly boring to me because they're like a freaking machine. And they just wear teams down. And hey, San Francisco's now that's a different discussion. San Francisco's had more style points, so I get why people put them ahead of the Eagles. I'm saying, in my estimation, hey, they play each other. What happened last year? They couldn't block the Eagles.
If they're both 5-0, then you're going to revert to who do I think's got the better roster. If up until one of the two of them lose a game.
Well, it's not even that. There's different, because as I said, did the 49ers have a better running back? Of course. Did the 49ers have better linebackers? Of course. It's not even close. But I'd rather have the better defensive front. I think the Eagles I think the Eagles are an abject mess in the middle of the field in pass coverage right now. An abject mess. And nobody can take advantage of it because they got to get the stinking football out in 2.2 seconds. Chris Franklin's he'll tell you, Cooper Kupp was open by 5 yards, but Matthew Stafford couldn't get him the stinking ball because he doesn't have time to get him the ball.
In the second half. He did in the first half.
Yeah.
But the Eagles tightened things up in the second half. Yes, Chris Franklin indoors again today. Chris Franklin going to be joining us from NJ.com. He's next here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Staffing is not easy, but that's what we do every day, all day. The key to our success is storytelling, asking the right questions to find the right people. Hi, I'm Gary Kane, president of Kane Partners. We want to be your staffing partner.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, we prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
You got Mac and Mac here with Young Birds 365. We got our guy, Chris Franklin, who's got some kind of a funky T-shirt on today that he's going to have to explain. What the hell are you wearing?
Just a random T-shirt I've had for like 5-6 years. I can't let go. That's about it. I wish I had a funny story behind it, but I was like, nah.
Is that a cowboy star on it? What?
No, it's not a cowboy star. It's just like a nautical star looking thing.
Me, Chris.
You trying to get me killed?
This is a poor wardrobe choice on your part today. A shirt with a Dallas Cowboy star on it? Really?
I like to issue a formal statement saying this is not a cowboy star. I'm looking toward the North Star, but yeah, no, it's definitely not a cowboy star. Nah, man, I don't have a. I'm not that dumb.
By the way, that brings up an interesting. I forgot to mention this on the show. Some knucklehead Eagles fan got in the locker room out in Los Angeles. Just walked in with. He's just sitting next. I don't know how he got down on the service level. He had a Jalen Hurts jersey on, and he just mixed himself in with reporters and walked into the locker room. Nobody stopped him, and he started talking to A.J. Brown. So I think A.J. figured out, who the hell's this guy? And finally got security. Yeah, that brought that up. You can't wear NFL team clothing, although this guy could. He got it in the locker room. Pretty amazing.
I'm mad I didn't see him because I was on the other side. Everybody's like, "No, what's this guy doing? What's this guy doing?" I thought it was like, and then by the time they kicked him out, I was like, "What the hell is going on?" It's not the first time that's happened. It's been on his beat. It's been a couple other times we've seen people.
No, there was a drunk guy at Doug Peterson's.
Yep, yeah, that guy was fun.
Yeah, that was an interesting.
Oh, memories.
But anyway, yeah, that's why I was thinking about team apparel. And he walked right in with a Jalen Hurts jersey. I don't know if they thought he was Jalen Hurts.
He couldn't throw or run like him. I know that for sure. I finally saw somebody showed a picture. He damn sure wasn't him. I know that for a fact. Like, well, it was him.
All right, Chris Franklin, situational question for you. And I enjoy doing these. Most people hate it when I do it. The guys on the stream hate when I do it too, but I do it with a purpose. Eagles win the toss, defer, shockingly. And the Jets get a couple of first downs. Brees Hall breaks off a big run. They got to settle for a field goal. Eagles are down 3-0, but they get the ball and they start moving it against the Jet defense, even though the Jet defense is good. And they get into the red zone, down 3-0, 4 or 5 minutes to go in the first quarter. Who's the running back if the Eagles have it 1st and 10 at the 18-yard line?
1st and 10 at the 18-yard line. Which way am I going in? Am I going into the window?
You're going in for a touchdown. You've moved it down the field. You've moved into the red zone, 1st and 10 from the 18. What running back is on the field for the Eagles?
I'm going to go Gainwell because I'm going to take a shot first. Because I'm going to go. And the reason I was asking which end of the stadium I'm going to go into, if I'm going to the end that's more, it's known for swirling a little bit more, it's bad in the wind no matter what. But if I'm going to end swirling a little more, then I'll probably go Swift so I can hammer it down. If I'm going to the opposite side, I'm going Gainwell because I want him to be the outlet just in case. I'm going to give him a rest to use him probably beforehand and get him be the outlet. I'm going to take a shot to A.J. Brown or Dallas Goedert on a crossing route, depending on these covers they have back, whether it's cover 3 or cover 2, depending on that's where I'm going.
The reason I asked is the Eagles the red zone. And oh, by the way, that's most of the time when Gainwell's on the field. They've been much better at it when Swift is on the field, but you're still sticking with Gainwell because you trust him.
I want to take a shot. I want to end it. I want to take a shot. Even though the Jets defense, I think you can run on them a lot. I think there's a good shot they could do that and control the ground game. Shot there.
Chris's scenario, if you're taking a shot, I think you should have Kenny. He's the best of a bad lot when it comes to pass protection. So he's the only guy who seems to get a body on somebody occasionally.
So you're doing it for pass protection purposes?
Well, you're taking a shot. He said he's taking a shot.
Take a shot. Taking a shot, especially first, because I think I can still pick it up on the ground. I think I can pick up 5 or 6 on 2nd down. Running the ball against his defense.
If I'm taking a shot and I'm throwing the football, like Kenny's not good at it, but he's just been much better than the other guys.
More reliable, yeah. He's a little bit more reliable on that, but and you can still use him as an outlet if you need to as well, if everything's covered up. So yeah, that's the way I go. I take a shot, depending on the side they're going into.
Now, I'll take you down a different route, Chris. As we were discussing, this team 5-0, but not getting many style points. Everybody think they don't do this. They're bad in the red zone. They can't
bad in the middle of the field defensively.
Down the middle of the field. What's your biggest concern with this team?
I mean, it really is the red zone. Because I look at this when you're going into that game, say against the 49ers, when you go into a few weeks when you go against the Miami Dolphins, you're going to need to score. You're going to need to score touchdowns. You can't settle for field goals now. I mean, even though Jake Elliott's been reliable, that's a game. Those are games you don't want to see him on the field unless he's coming on for extra points. And the fact they haven't consistently scored touchdowns in those areas and have relied on it is concerning to me still. And I don't know what you do. I don't know if you try to throw it more to your bigger guys. Maybe you go 3 tight end more. I mean, maybe you use Alvaro. He's on the roster sometimes. Maybe bring him up to try to use him for his receiving ability down there. I don't know. Like you gotta fix that thing. And if I'm Hurts, I'm trying to anticipate a little bit more and try to throw into those tighter windows, which he's shown he has the ability to do. But it just seems like he wants to protect the ball more and keep with the points. But those big games, you need to take chances, and I'd rather.
Now, here you bring up a good point with that statement, because here's why I'm more concerned about the middle of the field on defense than the red zone. They have no stinking sense of urgency in these games. If they have urgency, things might change against in other words, if you're in a shootout, you got to score. You got to take chances, as you mentioned. They'll take chances, and maybe it turns into a A.J. Brown touchdown, Dallas Goedert touchdown. They've been kind of just, we're all right. We lapped the Rams. Let's just run out the clock. Let's keep the ball on the ground. Let's get out of here. They've done that a couple times. Tampa Bay, they dominated the game. Minnesota, they were up 20. Now they gave up too much in the middle of the field, but they haven't really had that. Other than New England, there was a little bit of urgency.
Well, you got to give it to him, John, and some of us second guess him for it. sense of urgency. Jalen Hurts threw the ball to A.J. Brown rather than just running out the clock. And sure enough, Washington goes back down the field and ties it up. And if the coach had nerve enough, they could have lost it with a 2-point conversion. That was urgency.
Yeah, that was urgent. So they had urgency against Washington, and they did take the shot, though. They took the shot, and some people yelled at them for taking the shot. So you can't win if you're losing. But consistently bad has been, I think, at least since Avante left, which was very early, so we didn't even really get a feel for it. Middle of the field is a mess in the pass game. It's a mess, but I don't think many people realize how bad it is because the front is so good. None of these quarterbacks have time to throw. There were 2 instances in the second half yesterday, Chris. Not yesterday, in Los Angeles. Cooper Kupp was open down the field pretty significantly. And the one time Stafford threw it over the wrong shoulder, and the other time he wasn't even close. And he's a pretty accurate quarterback. He just didn't feel comfortable. He didn't have time to get him the football. And I think if he did, and people go, oof, where's the coverage on Cooper Kupp down the field? I'm really concerned about that. If anybody could ever block this front, which I don't know if they can.
I don't think it's going to be tough for a lot of teams to do it. I thought they should have done it more often because I thought Stafford had that hip injury. And he's not the most mobile guy to begin with. I thought they should have hit him more. But when you get to your point, secondary, I thought, until they start to use Bradley Roby a little bit more, and then you saw the impact he started to have, but you couldn't do that because he wasn't like in true game shape because he's been just basically got off the street a week ago. And then you try Slay on the inside as well too. That's too. But when they were trying to mix. When they were trying to mix different guys to go against, especially in the slot as well too, that I thought that was, I questioned that a little bit because you can't get a little consistency in space, and I think Ricks is more of an outside guy instead of a slot guy. I thought there's issues there, and you can't rely on Kupp being covered by a linebacker, which you pick the right zone, right coverage, you can do that. So there are some schematic things that I think you question more. I think with that defensive line, you should expect to only give a quarterback only 3 seconds to throw and rely on a short game, which to me, if that's the case, then you got to involve your safeties and bring them up because they're helping that coverage that short. Because if you get beat, so be it. You get beat deep, so be it. But I think they're still working out a lot of those kinks in the back end of the secondary when it comes to coverage for sure.
Chris, you said number one concern was the red zone. John said middle of the field. I think they're both legit concerns, not panic on either one, but legit concerns on both ends. Is part of the red zone problem that because the field is shrunk, the threat that is the speed that is Quez Watkins is no longer a factor? Because if you don't have Quez running, he can run a 4.240, but it's going to take him out of the back of the end zone, and that doesn't do you any good. So is the fact that the field is shrunk and the Quez effect doesn't play as well in the red zone is why they're struggling?
I don't foresee it that much. I don't think the Quez. I'll use that now. I don't think the Quez effect is a factor in that section there. I understand what
believes heavily in the Quez.
Because I see how he works. Like when you see those routes where they run the running back always to the side, just stand out there for spacing. He does it vertically, and that's the role he plays on there. I just think I think it's a combination of play calling and the way that when they have the opportunities, they're missing them. It got predictable to a point for most of the early on in the season where it's like it's first down. Oh, we know it's going to be a run here, especially when you get to the deep red zone. It's going to be or inside the 10. Oh, well, we know it's going to be a run here. Okay, and then the second down becomes the real true guessing one. I want to see a little bit more. I want to see a little bit more creativity as well too. Maybe I hate to invoke flashbacks of what happened when Andy Reid was here, but shovel passes or something like that. Something that we haven't seen this offense do to throw teams off to at least get a spark or a jump start something here because there's so many routes you can go. This is an issue right now.
Come on, Jody. You can't stretch the field in the red zone. That's about big bodies. But, Nick brings up the point.
Yet Quez stays in there.
Not necessarily. They play some 12 personnel occasionally.
12 or 13.
But, they go empty.
We all know they're playing less 12 and 13 this year than they did last year, right?
Well, Quez And Kenny Gainwell, by the way, and DeAndre Swift, as Chris brings up, the Eagles run more empty sets than I'm not saying anybody, certainly top 5. They run empty sets all the time.
Empty
it's all
in the
about
red.
What?
Empty in the red zone?
No, I'm saying,
But
I'm talking
about the red zone.
Yeah, but while I'm addressing your point of stretching the field in the red zone, it's not possible. But when the Eagles use spacing, as Chris pointed out with the running backs, look, the running back's not out there to catch the ball when they're empty. They're trying to create spacing for A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert. Who's the best 4th receiver in football? Does anybody know? I don't know. And I pay attention to this league. I don't know. I'm sure there's a good one somewhere. But in essence, that's what Quez Watkins is on this team. Why so much hate and vitriol for Quez Watkins, Chris Franklin, do you think, amongst this fan base?
I think he's more of a 3. I know Zacchaeus has been in some big spots and
John's
those
put him
touchdown.
behind Goddard.
Yeah,
when he's saying,
oh, got it. Okay, all right, cool.
I'm saying
All right,
all
gotcha.
intents and purposes. He's number.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, gotcha. When it comes, I think it's still a lingering effect of what he did in his previous seasons. When it comes to those deep shots, deep passes he dropped, I think that still lingers over, and you're still wondering when's this guy going to make an impact play. We keep hearing about the speed. I think what he's done beforehand has lingered into it, and then that play, that the screenplay, there's no excuse for that. He has to. That's a first down. That's
That's a terrible play.
Any of us could wait for that.
I'm blaming Brian Johnson for that. Why is Quez put in that situation?
Oh no, I think I don't have a problem with the play call. I think it was just the way they were. When you have one guy going this way, I'm not going. Let me run to the guy where a guy's blocking towards it. I'm running right between it. It was a good crease right there for him to run through.
By the way, full disclosure, I always have a problem with the bubble screen. Always.
Oh no,
take it out of the offense.
No,
hold on. Time out, Philadelphia. Let me ask you guys this, because somebody brought this up on my show last night. On the, I choose this word carefully, aborted bubble screen to Quez, the aforementioned Quez, in the game against LA. Was that his fault, or was that Smith's fault for the block leading up to Quez being taken down? Was it a bad block by Smith, or was it a bad decision by Quez to not use Devontae Smith the way that he needed to on the bubble screen?
Bad decision, because I look at it, the fact that you have to read your block no matter what. If you can see quickly both guys are being pushed on opposite sides, you run through the middle. Even if Smith was going on the down block and pushing that way, Quez bounces out. That was completely on Quez. That was completely on Quez.
That's why I tried to tell a guy last night. He told me it was a lousy block by Smith. No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
Your job is just to get in the way and let the guy make a move or make a play. And the fact that they threw it to Quez to beat somebody and or break a tackle is a just horribly designed play to begin with.
Watch A.J. Brown on that big long touchdown against Washington. Now, there was some great blocking down the field.
Alameda.
From Devontae and Alameda, both of them. From Devontae and Alameda. But A.J. used it correctly.
Right.
A.J. used it. It works both ways. Here's what the chat drives me insane. There are two different conversations. If you needed Quez Watkins to play for A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith, no. I'd rather have Alameda out there. I'd rather have Alameda. If A.J. and Devontae are playing and Dallas Goedert are playing, I'd rather have Quez out there. Just for the spacing. That's it. I'm not giving him the ball. Yeah, occasionally, if it's off schedule, he's open, throw it to him. It's like Doug Peterson. Remember that conversation? Were you there for that conversation, Chris, about Matt Collins? I don't know if you were there.
No, that was before.
One of the greatest things Doug ever said. Matt Collins had to play a couple weeks, maybe 2-3 weeks, and they never targeted him. And Doug looked at the reporter, I will not say his name, and he said, "He's my freaking sixth option. You should kill me if I'm designing plays for Matt Collins." that's and Mac has gotten better since that time. But that, I mean, I don't think people get that. I don't think people get the roles of different players. If you need them to produce, if you need them for traffic purposes, targets, no, I don't want them on the field. But if you for spacing, I want them on the field.
Couple deep shots downfield. Yeah, and I still use them a couple deep shots downfield just to keep the safeties honest, to think like, okay, he's not there just to do that. But yeah, you use speed because AJ and Devontae are more quick than I think with pure speed. So you need somebody there to just, instead of just going, okay, we can just put our safeties 10 yards off the line of scrimmage and we just know they're going to run a bunch of crosses and maybe some fades. That's it.
Yeah.
All right. And to answer your question, you asked earlier, John, the best fourth wide receiver in the NFL, that'd probably be Christian McCaffrey. He's a pretty good fourth choice for the 49ers.
He's pretty good.
Coming
He's
out of
a
the
pretty good
backfield.
player. I would argue he's probably,
he might be second or third.
Yeah, he's not 4. He's even on that team. He's not 4.
And who do you want? Who do you want to make 4? Ayuk. I'll take Ayuk over Quez Watkins. Do you want to make Kittle 4th? Yeah, I'll take Kittle over Quez Watkins. So they're the team that is power ranked ahead of the Eagles is better at the fourth receiver option as well.
I would agree with that. And the fourth receiver option, who gives a F? That's my point. There's only one football. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. When AJ couldn't get the ball, he was complaining. They couldn't get the ball to AJ. Then it was Dallas. They couldn't get the ball to Dallas. Now they didn't get the ball to Devontae. Why does anybody care? If they can't get the ball to those 3 consistently, why do people care about the fourth option?
You're right. No, nobody cares until that fourth option makes a big play like the Chiefs against the Eagles in the Super Bowl in the fourth quarter when they're fourth and arguably fifth option caught touchdown passes uncovered in the fourth quarter. Nobody cares about them until they actually make a play that hurts you.
All right. I'm banging my head against the wall. How about worrying about the defense not communicating to letting that fifth option be wide open? That's the problem. Not that the fifth option made a play. The fifth option can make a play if he's not covered. If he's covered, he's probably not making a play. I think we're missing, we're lost in the sauce when we're talking about, oh, that was Sky Moore or that was so-and-so. No, that was Slay not communicating. That's what that was. And that's the bigger issue. The consistency is what I'm talking about. Now, the Eagles lost. The Eagles haven't lost this year. The Eagles lost in the Super Bowl last year, which was admittedly disappointing. But that's an accomplishment. Yet I get this, Chris, that people don't find it an accomplishment. And I've been talking about this since day one. The expectations for this team are insane to me. They're insane. They're 26-6. I say this team's really good. I get lambasted for pointing that out. When I criticize them, I get lambasted. I don't know what to do with this fan base. But as far as this team measuring up against San Francisco, they have a better offensive line, better defensive front, better quarterback. Agree or disagree?
I think they got him in quarterback, defensive line. I think they do. When you look at the depth, and offensive line, I agree. Yeah, when you look at those areas, I think San Fran has. I think it's a push when it comes to overall receivers because I think they match up pretty well. Yeah, it's going to be a pretty evenly matched game.
San Francisco is a great team, and they have a great defensive front. But one thing I think also people don't factor in, like Nick Bosa, Defensive Player of the Year, right? Does nothing against Lane Johnson. Like they have to face the Eagles' offensive line, whereas the Eagles' defensive front gets to play the San Francisco offensive line.
Somebody's got to play against Trent Williams.
Josh Sweat's going to have a tough game.
Yeah.
But everybody else, not so much. That's styles make fights. All I'm trying to say.
It feels like right now. It kind of feels like college football when you look when you're discussing the Eagles and the 49ers and the fact that when you see the 49ers, if there was a committee to put the seating and everything else to see that one, you put the 49ers one because they've blown out everybody or most of their teams. When the Eagles have, well, you look at the only team that they really score wise, this was his last game against the Rams, but they're very evenly matched teams, and this was why I think as of now, when you look at it, I take it with the games that it depends who has home field advantage in that game. If the Eagles at home, I think that's why I think the Eagles win the 1 seed, because I think the Eagles at home with that roster they have right now, barring any significant injuries, they can win it because it's going to be I think it'll be the last possession type game. I think they can do that. If they were at Levi Stadium, I think the 49ers will win because I think it's going to be that close of a game with the last possession if they toss the first stuff. So it's really going to be a toss up. That we all know how important that game is going to be because it's going to be for 1 seed. So,
and by the way, more important is going to be injuries. That's going to be more important because the wrong injury at the wrong time will likely
there goes home field advantage.
Define a potential matchup.
All right, last one for me, Chris Franklin, because we got off on this. Who's should be power ranked higher, 49ers or the Eagles, and how you actually determine that. Strength of schedule. Who's played a tougher schedule so far? And I would suggest that neither one of them has been all that tough, but they both played the Rams. The Eagles have played the Patriots, the Vikings, the Bucks, and the Commanders, and the 49ers have played the Steelers, the Giants, the Cardinals, and the Cowboys. Who's played the tougher schedule so far, San Francisco or Philadelphia?
If you go off of names, the Eagles have played the tougher schedule off of names. I look at that, but when you look at records, I think it's like a 1 game difference or something like that. They're about the same almost when you look at that. So, yeah, the Eagles had the benefit of going against the Giants twice. They're
I'm
pretty
just
much
talking about this
right
point. I'm not talking about the schedule. On the first games, both teams have played. Either one of them have added tremendously tough, to be honest. But I would.
The Eagles are going to finish strong because they have the Giants and the Cardinals. Giants, Cardinals, Giants. They're going to finish strong.
Yeah, the Eagles have a tougher schedule right now. The tougher schedule as opponents right now. That's that one.
Well, you know what? That kind of shakes out. Now, Buffalo's the best team in football, according to the ESPN Power Index, which
that computer.
San Francisco's obviously very good. Dallas, not as good. And you know what? A lot of that is Trayvon Diggs right off the bat. You get one injury, a bad injury like that. So things change so quickly in this league. But yeah, right now, these are the 2 best teams in football. Kansas City does not look good. They're winning games. I mean, but they do not look good. They played poor against Jody's Jets. They got a bunch of breaks.
But Joe, didn't you just say style points are irrelevant?
Yeah,
because the Eagles haven't looked good either. There's a reason why the Eagles aren't top rated in some of these power ratings as well. But again, they're 5-0. Do we judge style points or not judge style points?
No, we don't judge style points. And Kansas City's a great team. I just don't think they're playing well, and that's why we're in the moment. And they got a long time to fix things. And when you have Patrick Mahomes, you're probably going to be in the mix. But it's just proves a point. Everybody thinks Kansas City's this great team because they're the Super Bowl champions. They've actually performed worse than all the other teams we're talking about. The San Franciscos, the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Ravens, the Bills, from a standpoint of what people look at. And that's why power rankings don't matter. They don't matter. They don't matter at all. But
standings are the only thing that matters. All right, Chris Franklin, you need to do some research. You got to be able to explain that T-shirt the next time you come on. Where you got it, how much you paid for it, what the star actually is, since it's not a Cowboy star, or so you say. We're going to need more details next time you come on.
We got frozen, Chris.
Did he hear me?
At C Franklin News. I don't know if you can hear me. We lost Chris. At C Franklin News, NJ.com. Make sure you read Chris. There, he's back. NJ.com. Make sure you read him there and everywhere.
Yeah, he's freezing up.
We lost him.
Franklin's
froze him. Thank you, Chris. If you can hear us,
we will get him back up against very soon, if not next week. Because I always love talking to Franklin because he got a good sense of humor, and I can pimp him about his cowboy shirt that he's wearing, and he doesn't get out of sorts. All right, McMullen and McDonald coming back. We got to put a bow on the show.
If you own a company and you're not producing a podcast, you're missing out. The public consumes messaging when they're ready. Join the professional podcast network of companies and let JAKIB Media Partners put you in the podcast arena. Come to our professional studio or we'll come to your place of business and professionally produce your company podcast. Call JAKIB Media right now at 267-261-3428. 267-261-3428.
My name is Dr. Bruce Grossinger, and I'm the medical director of Philadelphia PRP and Stem Cell Institute. I'm reaching out to those who suffer from spine and joint pain. We use treatment methods that require no surgery, no scalpel, no drugs.
Running, walking, or whatever your desires are, Dr. Grossinger is where you need to come.
You can benefit from the same PRP and stem cell treatment as Wilbert Montgomery. Call us now at 610-222-5675.
Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com. EAGLES, Eagles.
All right, quick bow on the show because you got the Philly Power Hour. Bill Colarulo coming up next here on the YouTube channel, JAKIB YouTube channel. All right, John, have we reached the point where the Eagles are going to have a walkthrough Wednesday?
No, we're still too early.
Full practice today?
Yeah, real practice today.
You sure about that, huh?
Yeah, barring a late change, which is never out of the question for the Eagles. But full practice is on the docket for the New York Jets. Later in the season, you will have walkthrough Wednesdays. As they try to save the veterans.
We're
the Jason Kelsey's, the Lane Johnsons, the Brandon Grahams, et cetera, et cetera.
All right, so make a prediction for me. Will you or won't you see Sidney Brown practice?
Yeah, well, he was limited at the end of last week, so I assume he's going to start limited unless there was a setback. I think he'll at least be limited. If he's full, that's a really, really good sign. Really good sign.
That would be a good sign, but you expect Roby to get the lion's share of.
Oh yeah, he's the slot corner now.
Yeah, there you go. He was the best of the bunch who played it last week, so we shall see. All right, Johnny Mac, I say we do this again tomorrow. You in?
Yeah, let's do it.
McMullen and McDonald right back here on Birds 365 in 2 and 2.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.